Hello. We'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about our church's wider mission, OCWM, and how your dollars help support an array of ministries across the life of this denomination. Today we'll talk a little bit about support for ministers, about the mission work we do around the globe, and the work we do committing to social justice.
MESA stands for Ministerial Excellence, Support, and Authorization.
When a student comes forward and feels a call to ministry, we need a structure that accompanies that student and helps them reflect and discern on their call and gives them a path to step towards that call.
The MESA team over the past 3 years has done more than 110 trainings in all 38 of our conferences, focused on training our committees on ministries and our conferences and our associations to prepare people for ministry, to support them and hold them accountable while they're in ministry, and to provide resources for them while they're in transition or in the midst of their robust and life-giving retirements.
It is one of the ministries of the national setting of the United Church of Christ that touches every other setting, from conferences to associations to local churches to specialized ministry settings such as hospital and military chaplains.
So just recently, our local church called a new pastor, someone who's just graduated from seminary a couple of years ago, and this is her first career. It was a joyous time in the life of our church, and it would not have been made possible without the work of the MESA team. And I know that the resources that MESA provides will continue to help support and strengthen her ministry among us.
Very recently, I had a local pastor contact me, just diagnosed with cancer, a very rare form of cancer. When we step forward and we respond to that person, to that pastor in crisis, and provide pastoral support to her, that's our church's wider mission at work.
We all know, though, that the church is in a season of extraordinary change, and with that, the nature of leadership has to change, be more responsive, and the church in general has to be more responsive to that changing culture.
Through your OCWM dollars, the MESA team can support 55 endorsed military chaplains who are able to provide pastoral care and other services to LGBT members of the armed forces at a time when many other denominations are refusing to provide pastoral care for those individuals.
So MESA is significantly providing leadership in a way that's timely and healthy and responsible and filled with a sense of the Spirit. We live in an age where there is much fear and suspicion, and the partnerships that we have in place on the ground that are everyday, ongoing relationships build a kind of connection that can reduce our fear, strengthen our sense of our common humanity, and quite frankly, build a different kind of world.
Global Ministries and Wider Church Ministries works in two different ways. First, we work to meet the immediate needs of people who have been displaced or are refugees, and we also to work to advocate for justice, that they might live in peace, in security, and in wholeness in the future.
What we're doing together in these various partnerships is providing a way to be a responsible, a healthy, a positive witness to the global community, that folks in the United States care, that we are compassionate, and that empowered by the gospel, we want to live that life with a kind of faithfulness that can be transformative.
I served as a dentist. I also helped and served as a pharmacist. I did teaching, and also I just joined with the local churches in their missions for justice and peace.
I work with a region-wide program for the Middle East on the relationship between religion and state in the Arab world.
My assignment is to work on the English language editing for the consortium for whom we work, and that's to prepare books and articles for publication in English.
In 2009, we moved to Zimbabwe, where we were mission co-workers for Global Ministries.
Our mission was basically sustainability. The children at the orphanage, if they had meat once a month, it was a miracle. So what we did was we started to raise chickens because you can raise broilers really fast, and if you do it right, you can make some money at it, so it's a sustainability situation. We also raised some pigs and got started doing raising corn and sugar beans and potatoes. Potatoes were a big hit. We got money to start this project from Global Ministries, and then we had a pretty good farm operation going for a while, and I said to the farm manager, so you know how to plant, you know how to fertilize, you know how to harvest, what do you need me for? And I just assumed he was going to say, you supply the money. I was so wrong. He didn't even stop to think, he just said, you supply the hope.
Several years ago, I was able to visit New Orleans. 6 years after the Hurricane Katrina had struck, we were still present and working, still hearing the stories of the disaffected, still working with churches to rebuild communities. When the rest of the world has forgotten, Wider Church Ministries remembers.
The United Church of Christ has a deep and long history of social justice, dating all the way back to the days we landed on these shores almost 400 years ago. It was our ancestors who started the abolitionist movement. From those early days of abolition, we became also partners in justice movements for fair labor standards, for women's rights to vote, for the ordination of women, for immigration justice, and once we get into the 1970s, for LGBT rights. This is who we are and this is who we have been.
The prevalent social justice issues that the UCC is working on, I would say, would certainly be race, women's issues, women's health, economic, environment, and LGBTQ issues.
What I would say is that the United Church of Christ is attempting to make a stand for those things that keep us human.
The United Church of Christ is one of the few denominations left that still has an office in Washington, D.C. In fact, our office building is directly across from the Supreme Court building.
Where employees fully committed to the core values of the United Church of Christ daily walk the halls of power and justice of this country.
But when I say social justice, I mean the issues that concern Jesus, the issues that should concern the church, the feeding of the hungry, the caring for of the poor, the welcoming of the immigrant, the providing for the sanctity and the sacredness of our environment. These are the things that concern Jesus, and because they concern Jesus, they concern us.
We just last fall had a new curriculum developed on white privilege. So we are looking at ways to tie in that curriculum with sacred conversations on race.
White privilege is the study of advantages that give power and wealth to people based on the color of their skin. And we need to be aware of the dynamic of white privilege, because even the best intentioned of white people who have overcome racism have still not struggled with the advantages they accrue simply because of the color of their skin.
White privilege is not something that people ask for. It is something that we are born with. But what we do with that privilege makes all the difference in the world, and that's what we're after.
Until we deal with that, there will not be racial equity, and the racial barriers will continue to grow wider and wider with each passing generation.
The beauty of our church's wider mission, in the conference and in the national setting, is that we can do so much more together than we could ever do alone.
The assumption is that all churches are healthy, but we are reminded of Jesus' gospel in Luke that says that those who are healthy need no physician. So our OCWM dollars go to help those who are not so healthy.
We have churches that are vital and flourishing. We have churches that are struggling very much just to survive.
Our OCWM resources is the life-giving waters that nourishes our local congregations.
The conference uses OCWM dollars for a number of things, but significantly for providing staff leadership to support local congregations in their ministries.
And to provide pastoral care for the ministers in the local communities and local churches, as well as curriculum materials for social justice issues, for Christian education.
All these are part of the great puzzle that's put together with the kind of support that OCWM provides.
So it's about multiplying our ministry from the local setting to the conference setting and up to the national setting so that we can have a larger voice and make a bigger impact.
I want to thank you for your contributions to our church's wider mission. The Holy Spirit envisions a future in which the United Church of Christ matters. And your OCWM dollars helps this denomination live out its missional commitment to love neighbor and to build a just world for all.